Hello everyone, and welcome to the 2022 SoCal Retro Gaming Expo, which was held in February. Yeah, I'm a little bit late on this video, but there's reasons for that. I have been having a lot of things going on in my life lately, one of which is I've purchased a new house, which I've just moved into, and that has kept me very busy for the last couple of months. The whole house hunting thing was a nightmare. It took a while to find a house, and then it's taken a long time to, get moved in and get everything unpacked. Also, things have been very crazy at work, so I've just been very, very busy, but thankfully I should be to a point now where videos will be more regularly uploaded on this channel. Mark and I have just recently filmed a lot of great footage that I think is going to turn into some really cool videos. And speaking of cool things, I am going to be at the 2022 Game On Expo in Phoenix, Arizona. The Game On Expo is August 5th through the 7th, and I'll be there the whole weekend, and I'll be doing a panel where I talk about old, cool mall stuff and answering questions. So if you're in the Phoenix area of August 5th through the 7th and you like old video games and retro things, you should come by and say hi. Let's get back to the actual SoCal Retro Gaming Expo though, and we'll start with my pals Pat and Ian's booth. You may know them as the hosts of the CU podcast, and also from Pat's books, his Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES and SNES libraries. One of the things I love about these conventions is just walking around the various vendor booths and just seeing so many things that I don't normally see, even out thrifting or at some of the video game stores near me. For example, that TurboGrafx 16 in the rental case. I used to have that, but I sold the rental case. I still have the TurboGrafx 16 and CD system though. I always have to check out the Game Boy games. I'm a huge fan of the Game Boy, but there isn't anything here that I need. I don't tend to buy a lot of stuff at conventions, at least not expensive stuff. A lot of the stuff I'm looking for anymore is like old Television and Atari games and some Game Boy stuff, and that stuff generally isn't super expensive, whereas, as you can see, complete in box NES games are really expensive at conventions. One of my favorite things about these conventions are the exhibits that come to these. There's usually different traveling museum exhibits and things, and this is where you can see some stuff that you're really never going to see anywhere else. This one is a traveling exhibit from the Gaming Museum, and they brought a lot of interesting things to look at. I like how they have the little information sheets above each of the items. For example, this one here for Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. They've also got some prototype cartridges. Looks like N64, NES. See, this is stuff that you just really wouldn't see outside of just, pictures and videos about these kind of things. There's the Caltron 6-in-1. Oh, that's Myriad Games 6-in-1. Getting my names wrong. Oh, and the porn games for the NES, Peekaboo Poker, Hot Slots. And these are something I've always thought were kind of cool. These NES Test Cards. These were used at authorized Nintendo repair places. Again, all things that I never see in person. I've never seen this before ever. Tooth protectors from Johnson & Johnson for the Atari. I am familiar with Chase the Chuck Wagon. A dog food promotional Atari game. Now here's something you may see out in the wild sometime. This is the Power Glove. We all know the line. I'm not gonna say it. I'll let Lucas say it.
It's so bad.
Oh, and there's the Cheetah Men game, famously completely broken on release. And here's something else I've seen pictures before but never actually seen in person, is one of these Star Fox Super Weekend jackets. It's actually really nice. Now this is pretty neat. This was a training device used by the United States military that worked with a Super Nintendo. That's a giant M16 light gun, basically. And here are the cartridges that were used for the training program that worked with the gun. Now, I remember seeing this in a magazine, and I want to say it was an old issue of Nintendo Power when I was a kid, but it might have been a different magazine. So it was really interesting to actually see that in person. Now here's something weird to see at a retro gaming convention, a Singer sewing machine. However, this one's special. This is the Isaac digital sewing machine, and this actually worked with a Nintendo Game Boy and a special cartridge. If you want to know more about this thing, I'll put a link in one of the cards up at the top of the screen to a really great video about this thing. This is what I love about retro gaming, is the weird stuff like that. The gold cartridge down in the right hand corner of this case caught my eye. That's a gold Punch-Out cartridge. I believe that was from a contest in Japan. And here's something else we never got over in the United States. This is the Nintendo 64 DD, a proprietary disc system for the Nintendo 64. It was never commercially released in the United States, but a US prototype was found recently. There was another really cool exhibit that I want to show you all in this video, which we'll get to in a little bit. First, I want to go through some of the other booths and see what we can find. I did see a lot of booths like this that had a lot of Nintendo 64 games. Nintendo 64 kind of seems to be what's popular right now, and it makes sense. It's kind of in that nostalgia sweet spot where the kids that grew up with that system have grown up now and have some disposable income to kind of buy back some of their childhood. Although buying back your childhood is becoming a really expensive proposition, I had quite a bit of sticker shock looking at some of the prices on some of these games. I knew that retro game prices had risen, but they have really gotten out of control, it seems like. I'm glad I got a lot of the stuff that I have now early before prices really exploded. You know, for example, things like the Sega CD. I have a Sega Genesis and Sega CD Model 2 and the 32X to go with it, but I got those years ago before the things got really expensive. I always like going through the Japanese Famicom and Super Famicom games when I'm at these conventions because it's really the only time I see them. Here's some complete in box NES games. I don't collect complete in box NES games, I just collect cartridges. I do have some complete in box, but I don't purposely try and buy them that way. I think I only ended up buying one game at this convention. I know I bought a factory sealed copy of a Dungeons and Dragons game for the Intellivision, and part of the reason I bought it was because it was factory sealed and it had a old Kmart price tag on it still that was in really good shape. And I would show you all that now, but it's still packed away in boxes. I haven't gotten that far into unpacking yet. And this is kind of cute. This is a Game Boy Cassette Box, but it's not really cassette tapes. It's to hold Nintendo Game Boy games. They actually call the cartridges cassettes sometimes over there. They had a lot of Japanese stuff here and some Sega Saturn stuff. I kind of collect for the Sega Saturn, but it's gotten really expensive. Now this booth has a whole pile of expensive going on here with the TurboGrafx 16 hooked up to a PVM monitor. Let's go take a look at that other exhibit now. This is the art of Nintendo Power. This exhibit features a lot of the original artwork that was used on the covers throughout the years, as well as other odds and ends, and even some of the clay models that they used on some of the early covers. This is from one of my all-time favorite games, Final Fantasy III or Final Fantasy VI in Japan. It's really cool to see stuff like this, especially because I have this issue, for example, that cover art was used for. And I also have this issue with the Battletoads and Double Dragon cover. And this is funny because this is one of the issues that I remember sticking out in my head the most from when I was a kid, because I saw all of this artwork and the review of the game and I really wanted it, and then I rented it and I was terrible at it. There's so much nostalgia in all of this artwork. I had a subscription to Nintendo Power as a kid from the NES years all the way through the SNES and a little bit into the N64, but once the N64 came out, I kind of lost interest in Nintendo and I had a PlayStation at that point. Seeing this artwork for Super Mario Kart makes me wonder, how many hours have I spent total playing Mario Kart games? I bet it's a scary big number. This really is one of my most favorite exhibits I've ever seen at one of these conventions, and the really cool thing is this exhibit will also be at the Game On Expo in Phoenix. And from what I've read, there's even new artwork and things that are going to be on display in the exhibit. Now this might be my favorite part of the exhibit. That is the clay model that was used for that Mario Paint cover. And what's interesting to see is that it was only modeled from one perspective, so it looks fine when you look at it from the way that they took the photograph, but it's just flat on the other side. Now this is awesome. This is a cover for Mega Man 2, and once again here they used actual models for the cover shot. So you can see what they look like there on the cover all the way back then, and here's those models today, and that Dr. Wily is just creepy as hell. I love it. And then here's Mega Man down here. I remember this cover from when I was a kid, and it's just insane to see the actual models that were used. Now here's something for the sneakerheads. Here's the cover for Track and Field 2, and you can see that they used a pair of customized sneakers for the cover. And here they are. And I'm pretty sure those are Converse. And yeah, they painted them and added little plastic moldings and things to them. I wonder how much those go for, how much a sneakerhead would pay to have those in their collection. There's even some original artwork from the Howard and Nestor comics in this collection. I used to like the Howard and Nestor comics. There was usually a tip or something for whatever game the comic was focused on. Nestor is a fictional character, but Howard is Howard Phillips, who at the time was the president of Nintendo of America. He left the company at one point, and then these comics just became Nestor-focused comics. And what's interesting also is that as heavily featured as Nestor was in Nintendo Power issues, I think he was only ever in 2 games. I think he was in Play Action Football on the NES, and then he was also in Nestor's Funky Bowling for the Virtual Boy, which as we all know was a complete failure. Personally, I think Nestor should be in Smash. Now this is kind of neat. Here's the original map for Dragon Warrior, and Dragon Warrior was actually part of a kind of famous promotion where if you got a subscription to Nintendo Power, you could get a free copy of Dragon Warrior, which a lot of people did, and that's why you see copies of it everywhere that there's NES games for sale. I think this map was made with individual screenshots, which would have been a huge chore back then. I think it's worth pointing out too that I'm only showing you a small portion of what's on display at this exhibit, so if you happen to live somewhere near a convention where you see this exhibit's going to be there, I recommend checking it out. And I think we'll wrap it up here with this bitchin' artwork for Super C. I think this was used for the poster that came with the magazine. Hopefully you've all enjoyed this little dose of nostalgia. I know this video is a little different than what's normally on this channel, but we do that here from time to time. There will be more of your regularly scheduled retail archaeology content very soon. As always everyone, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/retailarchaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my video on the SoCal Retro Gaming Expo. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also make sure to follow at the social media links down there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the Retail Archaeology channel.